Welcome into HQ Spotlight on CBS Sports Network. I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino. Monday Night Football is upon us. We have the Commanders and the Chiefs. Speaking of the Chiefs, really starting to click since week 4 when Xavier Worthy returned. The offense feels like it's firing on all cylinders. Now, Kansas City still has some work to do if they want to win the AFC West yet again, right? So we're looking at the division standings. KC, they are 3rd in the division right now, which is kind of crazy to say, right? Sitting at 4-3, still a minus 105 favorite to win the AFC West. They're sitting behind the Broncos in the Chargers. How about the Broncos, though, coming off that huge win against the Cowboys? 2-1 to win the division, by the way. The trade deadline right around the corner. It is November 4th, so we're going to go through every single team in this division and talk about what they need as that trade deadline is approaching. And for that, we are bringing in our GM, Rand Carthon. Rand, great to have you here with us. Even though the Chiefs are not sitting at the top of the division, we're going to start with them because they've won the dang thing, 9 times in a row?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Yeah, looking to go 10. How do the rich get richer here? Because that's always what it feels like, whether it's the draft, whether it's the trade deadline. They always seem to figure it out. What do they need?
I would start here because we've talked about it over the last couple of weeks in terms of the running back position in particular. Yep. And it became a thing because they're in 3 games this year, Patrick Mahomes has been the leading rusher for the Chiefs. Try that on for size. And then right now they have 3 rushers who have 200 yards of yards rushing. Patrick Mahomes being one of them, Isaiah Pacheco who leads the team with 271 yards, and then you have Kareem Hunt. And so this is a position where I think they need to just settle in and get a playmaker. So if I were to trade, if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, I would say running back. I would also look at the defensive tackle position because you lost the young guy Norman Lott. He's on IR for right now. And then we obviously know who Chris Jones is, and they move him around. He plays on the edge. He plays inside. So I would say, to get very particular with this one, I would say a base down interior defensive lineman, someone that can just add some depth there, because I think right now they're missing depth. They're getting, I'm not going to say they're getting away with having a bunch of guys in there because you can do different things with Charles Omenihu, who plays on the edge. He kicks inside and sub. And then Leo Chenal, the way his versatility on the edge has allowed other guys to kind of move around. But I also think they need to look in the interior of the defensive line. Yeah, because we know how it goes. One play and you're already going into your depth. It's just how it works, right? Want to go to the Chargers because, kind of on that same note, this is a team that has been bit really, really hard by the injury bug here. You could make a case for O-line. You know, we know Rashawn Slater totally out for the season. Joe Alt just coming back from injury, right? But we're looking at D tackle here for the Chargers. Tell us why. Yeah, so even to comment on your offensive line, I think them getting Joe Alt back last week really settled everything for them across the front. So as long as he can stay healthy, I think they'll be fine up front. But defensive tackle was a position that I thought they would address during the draft, just because of some of the guys they've had in there. You've had T.R. Tart and Naquan Jones have been their primary starters in there. Both guys have been kind of journeymen here late, but they both will also be free agents at the end of the season, and so you don't know what that number is. I think T.R. Tart his salary for this year was around $4 million. I think Naquan Jones was on a vet min deal. And so of the two, you probably have a more team-friendly deal to get Naquan Jones back. But that is a position I think they need to address and kind of settle in there. Okay, we want to get to the leaders as of right now of the division, and that is the Broncos, sitting at, 6-2. They had this huge win against the Cowboys, but unfortunately, Patrick Surtain, he leaves during the second half, does not come back, and if that injury causes him to miss some time, that's a huge concern for their defense. Yeah, well, he went out at 2 different points of the game. First, I think it was an ankle or shin or something, and then later in the game, it was, they're saying shoulder, but he was grabbing here, so I wonder if it's a pec, is what it looked like to me. But even if Patrick Surtain is healthy and he's out there, I still think outside corner is a need for them. Riley Moss has become the player to pick on, and that's what we would do in terms of scouting, and we would have players to watch and then players to pick on. And Riley Moss has become a player to pick on. I feel like teams isolate him in those one-on-one situations and put him in those jump ball situations because he is 3rd in the league right now in terms of penalties with 6. And so I still think they need to add, because they drafted Jahdae Barron in the first round, and I was one of the people that believed Jahdae could play outside, but they've played him primarily inside as their nickel. Yeah, to your point, I think 3 of those penalties came in that game alone against the Cowboys, right? He had 2 or 3 that were just 2. And I'd also be interested in, because some penalties have come where the guy actually caught the ball for a first down, so the penalty was declined.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the numbers would actually be if all penalties were accepted.
You know, Rand, there was one point in that game where there was a flag thrown and the camera guy just zoomed in on Moss, even though
it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. I'm like, oh my God, give this man a break. He's had enough penalties, okay? It wasn't him this time. All right, if we go to the bottom of the division, we're talking about the Raiders here, and we're all thinking they're going to be sellers, of course, looking at the record. They did sign Tyler Lockett today, so that's a move, but you think they need to make a different trade in trading for Jacoby Myers. What does that look like in the return?
See, for me, I'd say this. Signing Tyler Lockett today could indicate that you're moving on from Jacoby Myers, and that's why I had them as sellers. And simply put, it's been well known, well documented that Jacoby Myers wants to leave. And to quote Mike Tomlin, he says, "We want volunteers, not hostages." And so if I had a player that was adamant about not wanting to be there, I'd try to move on from that player, because that could become an issue in that locker room, especially when you have a new GM, a new head coach who are trying to establish their culture. Hence why you bring in Tyler Lockett, who's played under Pete Carroll. You bring in your type of guys, your guys that can be the purveyors of your message in the locker room and help you establish that culture there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and to your point, too, there's some young guys on offense as well, so you don't really want, you know, the juju to be a little different. But what would a return look like, do you think, for Jacoby Myers?
I think it'll be in that 4th to 5th round range. It'll be Jacoby Myers plus a draft pick going to whatever respective team for a higher draft pick.
Sure.
So you could see a Jacoby Myers and maybe a 5th round pick for a 4th round pick, or Jacoby and a 6th for a 5th. Will probably be that range for the compensation.
Okay, we're going to put you on the spot. We're mid-season, and we want to get your pick. Who is going to win the AFC West? Is it going to be the Chiefs yet again? I think it would be 10 straight. Or do you think it's somebody else that takes the crown there in the AFC West?
I'm going to go Old Faithful, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Okay.
And because I think right now they're really starting to trend upwards and peak in terms of getting their offense back. And we were just talking about it on another show. Patrick Mahomes, since week 4, his completion percentage is up 12 points. They're averaging 31.5 points a game. And they're top 5 in so many offensive statistical categories since week 4. And a lot of that, we're talking about Rashee Rice, who's going to be a huge part of this offense moving forward. But how much more efficient Patrick Mahomes has been since Xavier Worthy has been back. So I think the Chiefs will win the division. Yeah,
it feels like since he's been back there with the offense, it's just been really clicking, and that's a dangerous thing. When you have Patrick Mahomes and your offense is just straight rolling, it doesn't matter how they start, right? They always find a way to get it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rand, we appreciate it. Hang tight because we have more to discuss. We're going to get to a different division, but in the meantime, looking at the AFC West games for Week 9, you got the Chargers and the Titans on CBS, the Broncos and the Texans, my Jags taking on the Raiders, and then we have a classic AFC showdown with the Chiefs and the Bills on CBS on Sunday at 4:25 Eastern.